Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into humanity?
Sounds intense.
It is. We're going to explore how Homo sapiens went from just another animal.
To the rulers of planet Earth.
Exactly. And we're using Yuval Noah Harari's book, Sapiens, as our guide.
That's a great choice. So much to unpack there.
I know, right? Get ready for some serious, mind-blowing moments.
I'm all for that. I think what's really fascinating about this deep dive
Is that we're not just reciting dates and timelines.
we're going deeper, uncovering the revolutions that shaped us.
From those humble beginnings.
To this,
Yeah.
us, right here, right now, dominant force on the planet.
It really makes you think, where do we go from here?
Big questions, for sure.
So let's zoom out for a sec, get that big picture view.
Love it.
Humans, just like us, have been around for what, 2.5 million years?
Yeah, give or take.
But Harari says history as we know it really kicked off
With the cognitive revolution.
around 70,000 years ago.
That's the turning point.
What happened then? What was so significant?
It's like a light switch flipped in our ancestors' brains. Boom.
Okay, so what? They suddenly got smarter.
You could say that. They developed language.
The complex kind, not just grunts and signals.
Right. Abstract thinking, the ability to cooperate in large groups.
All that higher level stuff?
It allowed them to outcompete other human species.
You mean like the Neanderthals?
Yep, them too. And eventually spread across the globe.
So basically, brains over brawn won the day.
Brains were crucial, no doubt. But Harari also highlights
What? Don't leave me
the
hanging.
importance of fire, and get this, cooking.
Okay, hold up. You're saying cooking was like this turning point in human evolution.
You bet. It might sound strange,
It kind of does.
but think about it. Our closest relatives, chimpanzees,
Those guys.
spend 5 hours a day just chewing raw food.
Oof, jaw workout.
Cooking softened food made it easier to digest,
Okay, so more efficient eating. Makes sense.
and it allowed humans to eat a wider variety of plants and animals.
And here's the kicker. It shortened our digestive tracts. So, less gut, more brain.
You got it. Both long intestines and large brains.
They're energy hogs.
Exactly. By shortening our intestines, freeing up energy,
Cooking may have paved the way for bigger brains
both in Homo sapien.
and Neanderthals.
That's the theory anyway. It's fascinating.
Mind blown. So, cooking wasn't just about tasty food.
It was a biological hack.
It literally helped us become smarter.
Pretty neat, huh? But brains alone don't tell the whole story.
Right. There's got to be more to it.
What truly sets us apart is our ability to believe in,
Believe in what? Unicorns.
not quite, things that don't physically exist.
Like what?
Nations, religions, money. These are concepts, not objects.
You mean like ideas we all agree on.
Harari calls them imagined realities.
And that's what lets us cooperate in huge numbers.
Build empires, create complex societies, the whole shebang.
Wait, so even though these imagined realities
Aren't real. In the physical world,
still shape our behavior and history?
absolutely. One powerful example Harari uses,
Hit me with it.
the Sunjir burial site in Russia, 30,000 years old.
Okay, what's there?
Mammoth hunters, buried with thousands of ivory beads.
Wow, sounds fancy.
Each bead took hours to make. Years of labor represented there.
Ancient bling. What does that tell us?
It shows these hunters had complex social structures,
Ideas about status, wealth.
maybe even spiritual beliefs about the afterlife,
Oh.
all conveyed
Through those beads, like a symbolic language.
representing their imagined reality.
That's amazing. Simple beads, but a window into their minds.
It makes you realize they weren't so different from us.
They had hopes, dreams, anxieties, the whole deal.
And this ability to create and share these imagined realities,
That's our superpower.
it's the key to our species' success.
It let us build everything from tiny communities to those massive empires.
Exactly. But there's a flip side to this success story.
So what's the catch?
Harari doesn't shy away from the impact we've had
Impact on what?
on the planet. And it's not always pretty.
Okay, I'm listening. Lay it on me.
He talks about how wherever Homo sapiens went,
Extinctions followed.
right, around 14,000 BC, humans arrive in Australia.
And then what?
Most of the continent's megafauna vanishes.
Megafauna, meaning
Giant kangaroos, marsupial lions, wombat-like creatures the size of cars.
no way, all gone.
An ecological disaster.
We were like this invasive species wiping out everything in our path.
It happened again when humans crossed into America.
Around 12,000 BC.
You got it. Mastodons, mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant sloths, all gone.
It's a sobering thought, all that
I
destruction.
mean, makes you think, right?
Are we repeating history on a larger scale now?
That's the question.
It's like a warning. Progress isn't always a straight line to a happy ending.
Harari calls it the trap of progress.
Meaning?
Our time-saving inventions often lead to more work, more stress, not less.
Oh, I feel that.
Ah.
Email was supposed to make life easier.
Now we're constantly bombarded.
Whatever happened to relaxing?
Right. The tools we create to make life easier sometimes.
Make it more demanding. Ironic, isn't it?
Absolutely. Something to think about as technology keeps advancing.
It's not just about moving forward, it's about choosing the right direction.
And that brings us to another turning point.
Which is?
The agricultural revolution. Settled life, bigger populations, civilizations.
That's gotta be a but, right.
It also laid the foundation for empires.
And inequality.
Unfortunately, yes.
So it's a mixed bag, this whole progress thing.
Harari describes Satalhuyuk to illustrate this.
Sapiens.
An ancient city in Anatolia, around 7,000 BC.
Okay, and?
Population 5,000 to 10,000 people.
Whoa. A city that long ago, what was it like?
Mud brick houses clustered together.
Sounds cozy.
They had murals, sculptures, a sophisticated understanding of agriculture.
So they were thriving.
But this shift to settled agriculture.
It had downsides too.
Longer work hours, social hierarchies.
Vulnerability to famine and disease.
It's all connected.
So maybe our hunter-gatherer ancestors had more leisure time.
That's what Harari suggests.
It makes you think, right?
He challenges this idea that history equals progress.
Meaning?
No guarantee things are always getting better for us.
Okay, so no utopia on the horizon. What about happiness? Are we at least happier?
Another great question. Harari says historians.
They focused on wars, revolutions, technology.
And on the history of happiness.
Like they missed the small stuff, everyday experiences. But how do you measure happiness anyway?
It's tricky, but social scientists and biologists have tools.
Like what? Mood rings.
Not quite. They use questionnaires to measure subjective well-being.
Okay, so they ask people how they feel.
Exactly. About their lives, their satisfaction, contentment.
And then they compare that to things like wealth or freedom.
To see if there are any patterns.
So does more money actually make people happier?
It's not that simple. Wealth can contribute to happiness, sure.
Especially if you're struggling to survive.
But there's a point where more money doesn't equal more happiness.
Like that saying, money can't buy happiness.
Exactly. Happiness is influenced by so many factors.
Our genes, our upbringing, our relationship.
Our values, even our outlook on life.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It is. And it brings us back to the power of stories.
Wait, how so?
Our ability to believe in those imagined realities, gods, nations, money.
It makes us unique, but it can also lead us astray. We've seen how those stories can be used to justify all sorts of things.
Hierarchies, violence, exploitation.
But they can also inspire us, unite us, drive us to do amazing things.
So how do we harness that power for good?
Yeah, how do we make sure the stories we tell are the right ones?
Harari says we need to be aware of the stories we're telling ourselves.
Choose the ones that lead us to a better future.
One that's more just, more compassionate, more sustainable.
We need to be critical thinkers. Question the stories we've been told.
Become conscious creators of our own narratives.
Authors of our own destiny.
Love that. And this leads us to another key theme in Sapiens.
Which is?
The scientific revolution.
Ah, science. So what about it?
It wasn't just about gaining knowledge.
It was about acknowledging
The vastness of our ignorance.
Wait, so admitting we don't know everything.
Exactly. And that realization was incredibly liberating.
How so?
It freed us from dogma, from tradition. It allowed us to embrace uncertainty.
And to seek new knowledge.
Through observation, experimentation, math.
So instead of relying on ancient wisdom,
We started actively seeking new discoveries.
questioning everything, demanding evidence.
Exactly. And this new way of thinking.
It changed everything.
Profoundly. Not just for science, but for society as a whole.
Hmm.
New technologies, new forms of government.
Even new ways of understanding ourselves and the universe.
Well, it was a total paradigm shift.
Okay, I see how the scientific revolution connects to this idea of creating a better future.
It's all about progress through knowledge and understanding.
Got it.
And to illustrate this, Harari tells this fascinating story
I love a good story.
about two Scottish ministers in the 18th century,
Ministers. What were their names?
Robert Wallace and Alexander Webster.
Okay, what'd they do?
They were worried about the financial security of their colleagues' widows and orphans.
That's kind.
So they decided to create a fund.
To help support these families.
Exactly. But they wanted to make sure it was sustainable.
Smart.
So they turned to,
Tell me, data analysis.
you got it, They collected tons of information.
On what?
The number of ministers, their lifespans, the number of widows and orphans they left behind, their life expectancies.
Wow, detailed.
They use all this data to calculate how much each minister needed to contribute to ensure there were enough payouts.
They were like actuaries, creating an early pension plan.
Exactly. And their approach was incredibly successful.
So it worked.
It laid the groundwork for modern insurance systems.
That's amazing. They use science to solve a real-world problem.
It shows the power of observation, data collection, and analysis.
It's a reminder that science isn't just about abstract theories.
It can make a real difference in people's lives.
I like that.
And this quest for knowledge, for new powers,
It's still going strong.
we're still in the midst of this revolution, and its implications are huge.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got this species, big brains,
Ability to believe in imagined realities,
a knack for cooperation and innovation.
and a growing arsenal of scientific knowledge and technological power.
Wow, that's a lot. Where does that leave us? What's next for Homo sapiens?
The million-dollar question. Harari explores the potential and perils of scientific progress.
Like what?
The quest for immortality.
Whoa. Living forever.
Maybe. The challenges of ecological degradation.
The dark side of our success.
And the ethical dilemmas of emerging technologies.
Like AI and genetic engineering, that stuff's getting real.
It is. Harari doesn't sugarcoat things. He acknowledges our success has come at a cost.
Extinctions, environmental damage, inequality. We've got our work cut out for us.
And he leaves us with this provocative question.
Get me with it.
If history doesn't necessarily equal progress,
Meaning?
how do we shape a future that's truly beneficial for humankind?
That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
So how do we approach this challenge? What does Harari suggest?
He doesn't offer easy answers, but he urges us to be conscious of our choices,
To think about the consequences of our actions.
to be humble in the face of our limitations.
We've come a long way, but we still have a lot to learn.
And maybe we need to redefine progress.
What do you mean?
It's not just about technological advancement.
It's about creating a world where everyone can thrive.
In harmony with the planet.
That's a beautiful vision.
He wants us to have this deeper dialogue about the future we want.
To think critically about our values, our goals, our responsibilities.
To ourselves, to each other, to the planet.
So it's not about predicting the future, it's about shaping it.
Exactly.
And that requires all of us working together.
It does.
It's a daunting task, but also an exciting one.
It is.
We have the power to create a better future, but we need to use that power wisely.
And that wisdom comes from understanding our past, learning from our mistakes.
Being open to new ideas.
The story of Homo sapiens is still being written.
And each of us has a role to play.
Absolutely.
What an incredible thought. But we've still got more to uncover in Sapiens.
We do.
Next time, we'll explore how science has contributed to the unification of humankind.
And how emerging technologies could fundamentally change what it means to be human.
Sounds intense. I can't wait. So last time, we talked about how Homo sapiens
Spread across the globe.
reshaping ecosystems, leaving a trail of what...
Extinctions.
Yeah. We like to make an impact. But how did we go from hunter-gatherers?
To city builders. Empire creators.
That's a huge leap.
The agricultural revolution. Total game changer.
Okay, break it down for me.
It let us settle in one place. Grow crops.
So a stable food supply.
Exactly. Which led to more people, villages, towns, then bam. Cities.
It's wild to think about. Planting seeds.
Changing the course of history.
I guess when you're not constantly searching for food,
Do you have time for other stuff?
developing tech, building, creating art.
You got it. Harari uses Çatalhöyük as an example.
Say that again?
Çatalhöyük. Ancient city in Anatolia. Around 7000 BC.
How big are we talking?
5,000 to 10,000 people.
No way. That long ago? What was it like?
Mud brick houses all packed together like a honeycomb.
Sounds kind of claustrophobic.
Maybe. But they had murals, sculptures. They were pretty advanced with agriculture.
So it wasn't just survival, they were building a culture.
Exactly. But this transition to farming,
It had downsides too, right?
longer working hours, more social hierarchy.
And weren't they more vulnerable to famine and disease if something went wrong with the crops?
Sadly, yes. It's a trade-off.
More food security, but at what cost? It makes you wonder.
If hunter-gatherers had more free time.
That's what Harari suggests, right?
It does. He challenges this whole history equals progress thing.
So are we on the wrong track?
He's saying there's no guarantee things are always getting better.
Okay, no utopia. But are we at least happier?
Good question. Harari says historians have focused on the big stuff.
Wars, revolutions, inventions, all the dramatic stuff.
But they haven't paid much attention to the history of happiness.
Like they forgot about the little guy. But how do you even measure happiness?
It's subjective, right?
Totally.
But social scientists and biologists have developed tools.
Like what? Happy meters.
Haha, not quite. They use questionnaires to measure subjective well-being.
So they ask people, how happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Sort of. They ask about their satisfaction, their contentment.
Their overall sense of well-being.
Right. And then they try to correlate that with objective factors.
Like how much money they have, their freedom, social status.
Exactly. To see if there are any patterns.
So spill the beans. Does money buy happiness?
It's complicated. Wealth can definitely contribute to happiness.
Especially if you're struggling to make ends meet.
But there's a point where more money doesn't necessarily translate into greater happiness.
Money can't buy happiness, they say.
It's true. Happiness comes from lots of things. Genes, upbringing, relationships.
Our values, our outlook on life, it's complex.
It is. And it all circles back to the power of stories.
Wait, again, how?
Our ability to believe in those imagined realities, gods, nations, money, it's powerful.
But it can backfire. We've seen how those stories can be used for good or evil.
Exactly.
To justify hierarchies, to start wars, to exploit people.
But also to inspire, to unite, to drive progress.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is. So how do we use that power responsibly?
Yeah.
How do we make sure the stories we tell lead us to a better future?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Harari suggests we need to be more aware of the stories we're telling ourselves.
To choose the ones that lead us toward a more just, compassionate, sustainable future.
Exactly. We need to become conscious creators of our own narratives.
We need to write our own happy ending.
I love that. And this brings us to another key theme, the scientific revolution.
Oh, right, science.
Harari argues that it wasn't just about gaining knowledge.
It was about acknowledging how much we don't know.
The vastness of our ignorance.
Admitting we're not all-knowing, that seems counterintuitive.
But it was incredibly liberating. It freed us from dogma, from blindly following tradition.
So we could embrace uncertainty, explore new possibilities.
Exactly. We started seeking knowledge through observation, experimentation, and math.
Instead of relying on ancient texts and authorities.
It was a radical shift. And it didn't just impact science, it transformed everything. New technologies, new forms of government.
And even new ways of understanding ourselves and the universe.
Wow, it was a total game changer.
Okay, I'm seeing how the scientific revolution connects to creating a better future. It's about progress through knowledge, through understanding.
You got it.
And I bet you have a story to illustrate this, right?
Of course. Harari tells this fascinating story about two Scottish ministers in the 18th century.
Scottish ministers, what were their names?
Robert Wallace and Alexander Webster.
Okay, so these ministers, what did they do?
They were worried about their colleagues, widows and orphans, how they would survive financially after the ministers died.
That's really thoughtful of them.
So they decided to create a fund to help support those families.
A safety net. Smart.
But they wanted to make sure it would last, that it would actually work.
Makes sense. So how did they make it sustainable?
They used data analysis.
Data analysis in the 18th century. How did they even...
They were ahead of their time. They gathered tons of information on the ministers.
Like what kind of information?
The number of ministers, their average lifespan, how many widows and orphans each one left behind, and the life expectancy of the widows.
Whoa! They went all in on the data.
They used all that information to calculate how much each minister needed to contribute to ensure there would be enough money to pay out to the widows and orphans.
It's like they invented an early version of a pension plan.
Exactly. And it worked. Their approach was a huge success.
So they really helped those families.
They did. And it's a perfect example of how the scientific revolution's emphasis on observation, data collection, and mathematical analysis can be used to solve real-world problems.
It shows the power of science to make a positive impact.
Absolutely. And this pursuit of knowledge, of new powers.
It hasn't stopped. We're still pushing the boundaries, right?
Absolutely. We're still in the midst of this revolution, and its implications are enormous.
Okay, so big brains, belief in imagined realities, cooperation, innovation, plus a ton of scientific and technological power. Where does that leave us? What's next for Homo sapiens?
The big question. Harari doesn't hold back. He dives into the potential and the perils of our progress.
Give me some examples.
He talks about the quest for immortality.
Whoa, living forever. Is that even possible?
Maybe. He also discusses ecological collapse, which
Is
then...
the dark side of our success.
Right. And then there are all the ethical dilemmas of emerging technologies.
AI, genetic engineering, all that.
That stuff is mind-blowing.
It is. And Harari's honest about the fact that our success has come at a cost. Extinctions, damage to the planet, inequality.
We've created a lot of problems.
It's a lot to grapple with.
It is. And it leads to a really thought-provoking question.
I'm ready. Hit me with it.
If history doesn't necessarily equal progress, how do we shape a future that's truly beneficial for humankind? How do we get this right?
That's a big one. Okay, so we've really dug deep into Harari's Sapiens.
From the cognitive revolution to the scientific revolution
It's amazing to see how we went from, like, basic hunter-gatherers,
to this technologically advanced, globally connected species.
creators of complex societies, masters of our own destiny. Almost.
But where do we go from here?
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
That's what Harari explores in the final part of Sapiens.
So what's the answer? What's next for Homo sapiens?
Well, he says we're at this crossroads, a new era where technology...
It could reshape humanity in
Yeah,
big ways.
huge ways. But to understand where we're going...
We got to look back, see how we got here.
Exactly. And this is where it gets interesting. Harari suggests
Tell me.
that the scientific revolution, it actually contributed to...
Magnification
Uh,
of humankind.
I-
Really?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Sounds counterintuitive.
Totally. How does science, which is often seen as, like, specialized, even isolating,
Lead to global unity.
that's what I'm wondering.
Well, think about it. Before the scientific revolution...
Most knowledge was localized. Like, each culture had its own thing going on.
Exactly. Different explanations for how the world worked, based on their own myths and traditions.
So, like, different origin stories,
Different explanations for natural phenomena.
different ideas about, I don't know, the stars, the planets.
Totally. But then science comes along.
And shakes things up.
It seeks universal laws. Laws that apply everywhere, regardless of culture or location.
Okay, so it's not about your personal beliefs anymore.
It's about what can be observed, tested, proven.
Objectively.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you're in Europe or Asia or Africa.
The laws of physics are the same everywhere.
Gravity pulls the same.
The elements are the same.
Math is universal.
It's like we're all speaking the same language, suddenly.
Even if our accents are different.
A shared understanding of the world.
And this shared understanding, it's facilitated so much.
Global cooperation, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Trade, communication,
We can collaborate on scientific projects.
shared technological advancements.
Even tackle global issues like climate change.
Because we're all on the same page, scientifically speaking.
A global village of knowledge. It's pretty powerful.
It is. But it wasn't just scientists who contributed to this unification.
Oh, who else?
Merchants, conquerors, even prophets.
Hold on, merchants. Conquerors. How did they unify anything?
Merchants have always been driven to find new markets, expand their trade networks.
They gotta make that money.
Right. And to do that, they had to overcome all sorts of barriers. Language, culture, distance.
So they had to find ways to connect with people from different backgrounds.
Exactly. They established common
It
currencies,
created standard systems of measurement.
developed efficient transportation routes.
So they were laying the foundation for a global economy, even if they didn't realize it at the time.
It wasn't always altruistic, but it had a unifying effect.
Okay, that makes sense. But conquerors, they weren't exactly known for their peacemaking skills.
True. Empires have often expanded through brute force. It's a dark part of our history.
Conquest and violence, not exactly a recipe for unity.
No, but even those conquests, as terrible as they were, they brought different cultures into contact.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So, like, the Roman Empire, they spread their language, laws, and culture all over the place.
Exactly. And the Silk Road, connecting East Asia with Europe, that facilitated the exchange of goods, religions, ideas.
So it's like, through both cooperation and conflict, humanity has been weaving itself together.
You could say that.
Okay, that's merchants and conquerors. But prophets, how do they fit in?
Prophets, religious leaders, they've always sought to spread their beliefs, convert people to their way of thinking.
Like missionaries, spreading the word, so to speak.
Exactly. Think about how Buddhism spread from India to East Asia.
Or the expansion of Islam across North Africa and the Middle East?
It's all about creating a shared identity, a sense of purpose.
That transcends geographical and cultural boundaries.
Exactly. And they all relied on stories to do this. Stories about economic opportunity,
About imperial glory, religious salvation.
Powerful narratives that could unite people across vast distances.
Stories, again, they really are at the heart of everything, aren't they?
They are. And the scientific revolution, it added a new dimension to those stories.
In what way?
It provided a new way of understanding the universe,
Our place in it.
a new narrative based on observation, experimentation, reason.
Instead of relying on myths and tradition,
We started seeking truth through a different lens.
a more objective lens.
Exactly. And that's what makes the scientific revolution so powerful.
It created a new global community,
A community of scientists, scholars, intellectuals,
united by a common language and a common goal.
the pursuit of knowledge and understanding.
It's a beautiful vision, this global community of knowledge seekers.
It is. But let's be real, we're still a long way from a truly unified world.
Sadly, yeah. We've got inequality, conflict, environmental problems,
Global problems that require global solutions.
which means we need to find ways to cooperate on a whole new level.
Exactly.
It feels almost impossible sometimes given all the division and mistrust in the world.
I hear you. But Harari believes that the scientific revolution has given us the tools we need,
The knowledge, the technology.
the interconnectedness to tackle these challenges.
We have the potential, at least. But do we have the wisdom to use those tools effectively?
That's the question. And this is where Harari takes us on another fascinating journey.
Okay, where are we going now?
He argues that we're entering a new phase of evolution, one driven by technology.
He's talking about AI, genetic engineering, nanotech, all that mind-blowing stuff.
Exactly. Things that could radically alter what it means to be human.
Extend our lifespans, enhance our abilities.
Maybe even merge our consciousness with machines.
It's both exciting and terrifying.
It is. It raises some huge questions about our future.
Like, what will we do with all this power?
Will we use it to create a better world for everyone? Or will we just make things worse?
Will technology enhance our humanity, or will it dehumanize us?
These are the dilemmas we're facing.
And there are no easy answers.
Not at all. But Harari's book, it gives us a framework for thinking about these challenges.
It makes us more aware of the potential consequences of our actions,
It encourages us to be mindful of our values,
to have a deeper conversation about the future we want to create.
to make conscious choices.
So it's not about predicting the future, it's about actively shaping it.
You got it.
We're not just passive observers of history, we're the authors.
That's what Harari wants us to remember.
It's a powerful message. Empowering, but also a bit scary, you know?
It is. But it's also a call to action, a call to be more thoughtful, more responsible,
To use our knowledge and power wisely.
to create a future that we can all be proud of.
Well, that brings our deep dive into Sapiens to a close.
It's been an incredible journey,
It has. It's really made me think about our place in the world.
and the choices we face,
It's a reminder that the story of Homo sapiens is still being written.
and the next chapters.
These are going to be the most exciting yet.
Absolutely.
So what will those chapters say? Will we use our knowledge and power for good? Will we create a world that's just and sustainable and fulfilling?
Or will we stumble and make the same mistakes all over again?
Those are questions for all of us to consider. Harari's Sapiens has given us so much to think about.
It's a powerful lens for understanding our past,
And imagining our future.
but ultimately the choices are ours to make.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep shaping the story of Homo sapiens.